Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Third Eye Zone. Yes, another fun and exciting episode of My Third Eye. Today I'm joined by Joreeezy from Cave. And I think we're going to get into a lot of fun stuff. We're just going to sit back, have a nice freestyle conversation like we always do here on My Third Eye podcast. And Joreeezy, let people know where they can find you, what your podcast, what you guys talk about, and wherever you are on social media and anything else.
All right. So my name is Joreeezy. My real name is actually Jarrell. And so Joreeezy is an alias for Jarrell. So you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Joreeezy. Unfortunately, my Twitter handle that I wanted to get was taken. So I changed it to Joreeezus. That's Joreezus. Yeah,
Nice, nice.
it's meant to poke at the religious population to try to engage a communicate conversation. So that's who I am. That's where you can find me. I'm from a collective called Cave, just a group of guys that grew up together, known each other since high school. And the stuff you talk about with your friends during break and lunch, sometimes those are
Hmm.
conversations that you wish you had recorded, you know what I mean? So
Oh, absolutely.
fortunately, we're able to still capture that years later, but this time with more experience and knowledge under our belt. So still talking shit. We just shifted to a conspiracy or a comedy genre instead of
Okay.
being social and cultural. I think that was our genre prior, but just making it a comedy podcast is just I feel like breaks down all the boundaries of saying crazy shit. First of all, fact check me. I was joking, bro. It's a comedy
Right.
podcast. But at the same time, if you learn something, that's also funny in itself. So you could find this at
Absolutely.
the cave that's at the K4V3. It's almost like a digital cave, almost like a metaverse thing since it's an online community.
Nice, nice.
So yeah.
And I like the use of numbers in your spelling. Obviously, I use that for my media brand. If you can see the 33 in there, just to
Oh yeah.
fuck with people, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
I'm like, "You know what? I'm just gonna throw the 33 in there. Why not?" And so I get where you're coming from. You want to sit down, have conversations, and wish they were recorded, especially back in the day. Now
Hmm.
we have the chance to sit down and record these conversations, get them out there, let people grind their gears in thought, and be like, you know what? I kind of agree with what he said, but he said it for me because I maybe I'm just too scared to have the voice to do it. So that's what us podcasters do. We seek truth, and sometimes we go down some weird rabbit holes, but that's what makes it fun. And conspiracies should be fun. Don't take every one of them so serious.
If you didn't talk about any rabbit holes in your circle of friends back in high school, junior high, I'm sorry, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? You weren't around the right people, I don't think, because I feel like it's not just even one genre of friends. It could be like the emo people. They talk about certain rabbit holes about the emo world. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
jocks talk about certain sports rabbit holes. It's kind of that. And each of us in the cave brings something different to the table. I'm obviously wearing a mask and all that shit. So I bring in the whole spiritual conspiratorial. Is that the adjective?
Yeah,
The
that
rabbit
sounds
hole
good to me.
stuff, the supernatural
Yeah.
stuff. You know what I mean? So when the ghost hit me up from fucking My Third Eye podcast came on, like I said, cave spelled with numbers, so it's almost like a beacon to the gematria people or the
Uh-huh.
matrix people, you know what I mean? So I feel like it was a divine connection of us meeting together to make this podcast
Oh
happen,
yeah.
man. So
Oh yeah. Plus, you've made some rounds on a couple of my friends' podcasts, and and
right.
I've been, but even before you went on Reality Czars and a couple others, I had seen some of your videos on like reels and stuff like that of highlights and this and that, and I'm like, man, this
Mhm.
guy's interesting. Like he just throws anything out there, and I'm like, man, I want to talk to this guy. Next thing I know, you're making appearances on some of my friends' podcasts, and I'm like, well, shit. he must not be untouchable. I'm going to reach out because you know what I mean. Because sometimes people get these platforms and they're like, well, no, I only just do it because I sit behind my camera and do this, and how dare you ask me for an interview? It's like go fuck yourself. You know what
For
I mean?
sure.
Like you're
Mhm.
not that. I don't care how. Even Joe Rogan, if I reach out to you and you don't want to come on, I get it. You're a fucking busy guy, but don't be the type that it would belittle somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
you started out from nowhere at one point too. You know what I mean? You were a humble guy from Cuba that, well, born here, parents from Cuba, immigrants and what have you. And you
Uh-huh.
came here and with practically nothing. And look at the brand you made now. You know what I mean? Like his kids will never have to work.
Off just talking shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, also the way we started too, we just started featuring our friends, you know what I mean? Our first 10 episodes was just kind of featuring our friends to talk about random stuff, and then the people that liked it were like, "Hey, dude, join the team," you know? And so we wanted to create that vibe of just friends and, you know what I mean? Kinda like the homie casual vibes. But as soon as we started rolling, we took some half court shots and hit up some people that are kind of, you know what I mean, known in the podcast space. And yeah, that's the thing about the internet. As much as we talk shit on the internet, there are the pros of it of where you can connect with like-minded people like us right now. You know what I mean? Everyone we've ever collabed with. Even the people like I'm sure there's a lot of stories of people being hesitant of hitting someone up, even for advice for certain things. I had this guy on the podcast. He has a big following on TikTok. His name is Box for Sobriety. He was a veteran and alcoholic. I think he was. I don't know if it was his first or second DUI, but look him up on TikTok. Box for Sobriety. He was having a rough night, and he went and took a Hail Mary and DM'd Tony Jeffries. He's a Olympian boxer, and pretty much was like, "Hey, man, like." You know those drunk texts,
Mhm.
like I can't even yeah, I don't even wanna paint the picture for people to see him as, you know what I mean? So just put yourself in his position. You guys have taken Hail Marys drunk. But
That's how I started my podcast.
imagine doing that to your idol, you know what I mean?
Right.
And Tony Jeffries actually reached out and, you know what I mean, gave him advice, gave him some guidance, and now look how that changes trajectory of his life. His whole alias is Box for Sobriety. He's taken his
Yeah.
life and made it like a whole positive mission of his, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, there are people I've hit up, bro, that has asked me, "What are your downloads like?" First and foremost, it's like,
Yeah.
first of all, I don't even wanna do a podcast with you anymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I, I I put up episodes and every now and again I'll get a guest. Hey, how well did the episode do? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even look. Like I did
Mhm.
okay. The first 6 months. You're like, you're new. You're like, oh wow, look. Now it's just like, no, I don't. There's some episodes that just fucking tank. But in my mind, I started my podcast because I wanted to learn. I wanted to talk to the guests that I used to listen to and get knowledge or something from. And
Mhm.
now, like you said, now we're here. We have podcasts, and if someone's like, oh, what the hell is he? Blah, 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 blah," and you hit something on you hit a nail on the head. Is sometimes meeting your idol isn't always a good thing because
Oh,
there was
yeah,
a
man.
podcast that, man, it was one of my first that I ever found. I loved it. Started my own. Still followed him, right? But
Mhm,
followed him
mhm.
under the podcast, and he thinks he's too big for his britches, and you know, God can only take you so far, and I kind of see you tanking a little bit now, and
Mhm.
well, you shouldn't have shit on me because now I'm never reaching out to you again to come on the show, and go
Right,
fuck
right,
yourself.
right. And you don't wanna be that guy too that, like, changes up his morals because of another person, you know, like, "Fuck this guy, Imma unfollow him now." You know, you're just, "Hey, man, I'm a fan of you, you're a dick, but" you
Yep.
know what I mean? That doesn't
Yeah.
mean I'm not gonna still follow you and check out your content, I just don't want you on my shit no more, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you know what, you don't do certain things. You know what, I I don't do them either. And yeah, thanks for the clarity. And I'll take this as a learning step in life. And I'm not going to look back. Whatever it is, what it is. I don't care. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm kind of like you. If you like pushing the religious boundaries, you're kind of on the right show. Now, I'm not
Let's do
completely
it.
into spirituality. I don't know. I just question everything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I grew up heavy Christian. I was baptized in the Susquehanna River in the middle of January many years ago. Was a devout reader of the Bible and follower. I have so many questions now, and after looking into it or listening to a podcast and listening to other people that tear it apart, I have a lot of questions, and
Mhm.
my biggest cult that I push back on is the fucking Mormon religion. And
Mm.
on the news feed, my co-host he usually gets a lot of the hate mail on from some Mormons. They're like, "Oh, that ghost, he just does blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Hey, look into your own crazy fucking cult, and you want to call it a religion?"
Right. Right. We actually had my cousin on who's he's a deacon for a Christian church, and yeah, the
Yeah.
Bible is something that we always go in and talk about. And I was raised Catholic, eventually turned Christian. And bro, I don't even know what the fuck I am anymore. I'm spiritual, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, same.
is that agnostic? I feel like agnostic's kind of like a cop out term. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I
it's
feel
kinda
like
like
we,
saying, "Oh, I'm atheist," or "I'm agnostic," and
yeah,
it's like, I believe in something, I just don't know if I believe the words that man wrote down that's
right.
telling me that it came from a divine source, because if that happened today, they'd be locked up in a loony bin. Just saying.
Yeah, and so one thing that I did talk about is, since you grew up religious too, is how do you interpret the Bible? Obviously, the Bible, depending on what your religious belief is still objectively a good reference source
Yes.
for either historic events or just lore, mythical lore, right?
Mhm.
So how do you interpret the Bible? Because it could be metaphorical, but at the same time, they fucking found Noah's Ark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's where your mind just wants to start racing. It's like, okay, well, there are certain, historical facts that are in the Bible, and rightfully so. It was written by man in a certain time period where this stuff actually happened. Now, when it gets to Revelation, I personally think that was him talking about Nero's reign as an
Mm,
emperor of Rome and the time of, and that was the only way that they could kind of get that free speech out there is in a really coded text, and it was adopted into, oh, these are the end times because it's in Revelations. Well, maybe back up, pump the brakes, because maybe what everybody's taking as literal was just someone trying to explain the chaos of what Nero was doing to Christians at the time and trying to forewarn and tell people, hey, just stay steadfast in your faith. But I can't say that. I have to put it in this really cryptid, bizarre, out there thing, saying I had a vision. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So it's crazy. You can take some of it literal, some of it as metaphor. I don't know. I'm really struggling a lot right now with because I don't know what I believe, whether it's flat Earth, round Earth, whatever. I just know we're lied to about everything.
Mhm.
Um, but when I see certain flat Earth people using the Bible to their benefit just to prove one point of, hey, God made a firmament. Well, but yet you'll tear apart the rest of it, but you'll hang on to this part saying that this is literal. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm struggling with that right now. It's just my new struggle. Like I hate it. They're like, oh, the firmament. It's like, but yet you
Mhm.
tear apart every other part of the Bible that you don't think is real. So I don't know.
So it's interesting because we talked about, like I said, how do you interpret the Bible? And I feel like universally, whoever you speak to can agree that there are some cryptic messages encoded in the Bible. You know what I mean? On some Da Vinci Code shit. Whether if you want to go that deep into it, or like
Right.
it's just as simple as, hey, he's not talking about, you know what I mean, like a tree. He's talking about spirit or whatever, or your whole family or your ancestry. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
think back then, before first of all, before there was anything written, everything was told orally, just stories, right?
Yes.
Passed down. Like if someone fucking died, like that's it. You know what I mean? Like you better have known the story and how to say it, or be able to emphasize. You know when you tell someone a story and they retell it for you, they don't emphasize certain parts.
Hmm.
And if they don't emphasize certain parts, sometimes the meaning's all gone. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so I feel like that also meaning has gotten lost when you translate that into written text, right?
Hmm.
And then after written text, I'm pretty sure pictures were made first. You know what I mean? Art and all that. And it's cool because I feel like the more basic art is, the more room it leaves to your imagination. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Opposed to now we have all these like super detailed AI images to where you don't even need to imagine anymore. If anything, you just need to
Mhm.
imagine 5 fingers because the motherfucker made 8. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You're like, oh fuck, I got to unsee the other three or one or what. You know what I mean? It's like, but other than that, it's really cool. But yeah, like you look at like old cave drawings and stuff, and it leaves a lot to the imagination, and un unpopular to a lot of people. That isn't very popular in the sense that, well, if you look at these quote unquote scholars,
Hmm.
it's their imagination and interpretation what
Exactly.
we're told that this is, and
Mhm.
they could be completely wrong, but because they went to university, they know. They know, and it's like, yeah, I don't really think you do.
The thing is like they don't even fucking know. What they know is just what they currently like, by the deadline, we need to come up with a fucking statement of what the fuck this is because otherwise we
Right.
don't look credible. But low key, we're still trying to figure this out. You know what I mean? Because the Euphrates River just dried up. But
Yeah.
what's crazy is there's going to be a deeper conversation about free will. But I just also feel like the Bible is a work of art as far as written literature goes. I mean,
Hmm.
it's in fucking every hotel, despite even in fucking Vegas. You think Vegas is religious? It doesn't matter. They
Right.
have a Bible over there, even in prison. I get the prison thing as far as a form of
Yeah.
rehab, mental rehab,
but,
but
but
the
Sin
Bible,
City.
yeah, that's I don't know whether we want to talk about like the Vatican and like the Roman Empire and all that stuff. But what I'm trying to say is there's obviously a governing body that edits, and almost like Wikipedia is the Bible, right?
Hmm.
And I feel like the majority, let's say 80% of them, are nefarious. They're really trying to like blur the story in order to make it kind of Disney-fied, I like to call it, to
Hmm.
commercialize it so it's just, well received by everyone. But I think there's a minority, like a 20% of them, that's trying to put out like certain texts that are undeniably cryptic and like raises questions to the people that are really digging. And since they're in the council, you know what I mean? Like obviously their word holds some kind of power. But since that text is going to be allowed in, maybe the 80% is going to be like, well, fuck it. Let's put this text in just to kind of scramble it too. So you don't look too much into it. You know what I mean? So I feel
Right.
like if you look at the Bible, it can be interpreted in multiple ways. And I feel like that's why it's a work of art, like abstract art. You know what I mean? Like you look at something and sometimes it makes you feel different things. So you interpret it differently on different days. You know what I mean? And
It's
so
one of the only books that you can do that with.
exactly,
You
that's what
can
I'm
have a
saying.
completely different interpretation of what you read of Genesis 1, and I could have a completely different interpretation of Genesis 1 that I read. And but no one, and someone else could have a different one. There might be that one person, usually on the pulpit, saying, "No, this is the one." But
Right.
who are you to say that mine isn't the one?
Hmm. Yeah, it's crazy because we talked about how fragmented everything is, and even the archetype of Jesus being well, first of all, the name Jesus, like, I don't know anybody from fucking Middle East named Jesus, bro,
No, it
or
should have been actually translated to Joshua.
exactly. Or Jesus, you know what I mean? Let's talk about
Mhm.
just Jesus alone. People say that, I have this conversation, I'm sure you had this conversation of people talking to missionaries and saying, "Well, what if there was a child in Africa and he, really believed in a God but didn't accept Jesus? Would he go to heaven if he dies?" No, because you need to accept Jesus, you know what I mean? But if you
Uh,
translate to the original text, it's Joshua, so who's Jesus, bro?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the image that you worship now as Jesus is not even the real guy. It was
Caesar
Vic
Borgia?
Caesar Borgia's son, who was a piece of they were both pieces of shit.
I heard they had all the original artwork redone with his face on it, and then they burned the original artwork. And so
Mhm.
everything that you're see every all the white Jesus that you're seeing right now is based on Borgia's son, Caesar Borgia's
Right.
son.
And no
So
offense, I say this on cunt a lot. Um, the original Jews, they didn't have the skin color I have. They weren't white. Sorry. Just saying. Just gonna put that the fuck out there. And Jesus wasn't white either. They had dark
mhm.
skin. They're Middle Eastern. Come on. Or descendants of Africa or Egypt. They have darker skin.
It
Where
would
did
have
this whiteness come from?
imagine if he came if first of all, his name was Jesus, and he was white, had blue eyes, like, people would be like, "Nah, dog, he's the Messiah, bro. Ain't nobody here that looks like him." You know what I mean?
Right?
Undeniable, bro, undeniable.
That's what makes him special. He's the only white guy in Jerusalem with blue eyes and brown hair. He's the next contestant
Talking about crazy
on
stuff.
Save Your Life.
But see, that's the thing, like, I talked about we went down a rabbit hole of Christmas and took that apart and found out that it was kind of a satanic practice draped in, gift wrapped, balls and fucking Christmas decoration, if you
Mhm.
will. And it's like all this energetic force and spiritual force that we're putting into, whether we just like to do it because of our kids or whether there is an energy harvesting, you know what I mean? Whether we are outputting energy, something is feeding off that, you know what I mean? And it's not who you're thinking it is. It's not Jesus or any of that. And that's kind of why I took the alias Joreeezy, because it's like let's talk about it. You know what
Right.
I mean?
And when it comes to Christmas, there's so many things, even just with the day Christmas, you're gonna settle on that just like every other uh culture or empire before that. Their deity was born on December 25th
Mhm.
as well. But then you start looking into, Easter and Christmas and the Passover and all this other stuff. And it's funny when I hear Christians singing have Yuletide carols and what have you, singing about the Yule log. It's like you do know that that is from pagan worship. That's from the Vikings and shit. Okay, it's
Don't
from
ruin it.
my
Don't ruin it
ancestor.
for me, bro. Don't ruin it for me, bro.
Right. It's like, don't. I still believe. It's like you gotta look into some of your truth. You know what I mean? Like, look into the origin. They just basically took all these different holidays and made them generic so everybody could kind of follow them, whatever religion you were.
Yeah, and I don't know, we can get into, they say words are spells, right? And everything is
Mhm.
hidden in the words. And Santa is really close to Satan, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And Satan always tries to hijack good and kind of Trojan horse his way in. And obviously, that's when he does his work, according to the story, right? And he always tries to be a false prophet and always tries to be like God and tries to take the spotlight away from Jesus. Now, the only thing besides Santa and all that, the only thing that really still stands as far as to Christ is the word Christmas because it's Christ's mass, right?
Right.
But even that, bro, what the fuck is Xmas? You know what I mean? You just X'd it out. You just X'd out Christ.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. And everybody's okay with it.
Yeah.
It's like, and people are gonna hear this be like, yo, Ghost, in one hand you're like shitting on it, the other hand you're defending it. Yes, because it's called thinking for yourself, ask questions.
Mhm.
Let the chips fall where they may. No one's right, no one's wrong here. You know what I mean? And when you look into to Santa Claus and eating all the cookies, that's a metaphor for, I believe it was Moloch who ate all the children.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
And
I
you got
heard
that.
the craziest thing too I heard was the fact that Saint Nicholas was apparently, an exorcist. Like, he was
Mhm.
able to either summon demons and control them, and that's kind of the connection of, what's his face? Krampus.
Mhm.
Krampus is demon kinda looking, you know?
Yep.
And Saint Nicholas has some ties with the Templars, and if you know the Templars, they secretly were worshiping Baphomet. Now I made
Yes.
this connection, and no one's made this connection yet, I don't think, so I put out Reddit threads out there to start the conversation, but since Saint Nicholas is connected to the Templars and he can summon demons, could Krampus just be an archetype for, first of all, Santa and the reindeers, right? There's a horned being, kinda androgynous because we can get into reindeers not really having antlers in the Christmas time because male reindeers shed their antlers around fall. So if you're
Mhm.
seeing Rudolph, a boy's name with antlers, like he's either gay or he was neutered. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I'm trying to hint to like a transgender or an androgynous kind of horned being, and that sounds like Baphomet, right?
Yeah,
Krampus
very
kind of
close.
looks like Baphomet. I think so too. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah,
So
and Rudolph having the red nose, man, lay off the Amanita mascara, lay off the mushrooms, and stop drinking your own piss, and then, then the monks and stuff would come behind them and eat the snow so they could fucking trip.
straight up. The thing is, if you're now, this is what I asked everybody is okay, let's say we're writing the program of the Satanic Christmas program, right? But
Mhm.
in the surface level, it's just, oh, buy gifts for people. Hey, don't look too far into it. You know what I mean? It's a holiday for family and all that. If you're practicing that on a surface level, are you still hitting the tones that resonate down to what it was programmed to do? You know what I mean?
That's a good question. You know what I mean?
'Cause knowing all this now, like, it's hard for me to practice Christmas, I'll be honest with you, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't have kids yet, so it's easy for me to set traditions now and be like, "This is how we do it, y'all," you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But how do you do it? How do you deal with it?
It's hard because when my kids were young, and even when I grew up, it was the Christmas tree, the Christmas presents. Let's decorate the tree. Let's put the lights on. Let's put lights outside. Let's get into the Christmas spirit. And
What does
now
that
it's
even
like,
mean?
right. And now I like that time of year only because it makes me feel good. Um, with like good energy,
Mhm.
but always in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, you know, and you wanna say it to somebody. Well, but you usually end up not really saying that to your kids or your wife or any other family member that time of year. Now fast forward, kids are grown. Now they're starting to question shit.
Mhm.
And it's funny, maybe I laid the conspiracy seed a little bit in both of them, and they do. They'll question stuff. And my stepson, when Rona came around, I mean, watching him, like my wife, his mom, my wife would bring something up, and he'd be like, "Mom, really?" And he just spit fucking fire, and I'm like, "Oh, nice, all right, cool, you get it."
Tear dropping down.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, it's hard because at the same time, you don't wanna be that dad who's like, "Yeah, we don't do Christmas, so my dad thinks it's satanic." It's like, "What the fuck?"
Right.
As
Yeah,
funny as
yeah.
that sounds, it's funny because, I'm still trying to digest it, but obviously it's a very, very what is it called? It incites a reaction, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
controversial. It's very controversial to say.
Well, and it's kind of the same thing growing up. I mean, I knew kids that weren't allowed to celebrate Halloween because they said it was satanic and they were Christian. Now the roles are kind of reversing. Now is that you could get into is that Satan's plan all along to take a good holiday and flip it around to make it look bad and make us question that it is? I don't know, but it's kind of weird. You go from the Day of the Dead that was practiced down in South America that eventually got turned into Halloween. And, there's other stories from England with, with the jack-o'-lantern and what have you.
Hmm.
And now you're seeing the focus kind of turn towards a lot of these quote unquote good holidays for a reason, I think. I think everybody's
Hmm.
just sick and tired of being programmed and force fed what they've been taught since they were kids because their parents were taught that, their parents were taught that. It's tradition, tradition, tradition. And now people are being like, you know what? Let me look into that because now I have this thing called a computer and I can go to the depths of the
Right.
internet to find
Mhm.
information in places that I never thought existed, years ago. You know, when I was a kid, you had a library. That was it. The internet was just being born. So it was crazy.
If you think about that, like I was gonna say too, like all this Christmas stuff we're talking about, if for your listeners, if you want to go deeper down into this research, you could just Google it, Google St. Nicholas. You don't have to go join a fucking like secret society or do anything to, get initiated to find out like the facts of all this. But back then, you kind of did, right? Like you had to know someone in order to access their library because you couldn't access this stuff at your public library. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is like when Hot Topic used to be creepy type shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
It's
those
and
kind
same
of
with
libraries.
and same with Spencer's back in the day when Halloween rolled around, you're like, man, I wish I had $180 for that Halloween mask. Like, man, that's some Hollywood shit right there. You know what I mean? Now it's
Or
just
back in like those community rent a video stores and you had the
yes.
18 and older section. It's like,
Yeah,
damn,
the porn spot.
what's going on over there? I can't wait till I turn 18 to to scope that out. You kind of had to meet a certain criteria in order to access certain
Yeah.
topics back then. But now you could just fucking Google anything or just listen to a podcast. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Some people in our community, I'm talking about all the circle of the people that we've been involved with, they do some
Mhm.
pretty dope breakdowns on certain conspiracies.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
And
just
I,
anybody
I
in
love
this
it all.
circle. Mhm.
Yeah. And shout out to people that I communicate with on a daily basis in the community and what have you that do solo shows that go in and break stuff down, do the research. I honestly I don't have ADD, but when it comes to sitting down to read something, this is why I was not very good at school uh, it- when I was younger because I hated reading. Now I can read, but I hated reading. I hated doing the assignments. I have to learn on my own. I have to learn my own way, not the programmed way. And anytime I sit down to try and research something, I see too many squirrels, too many shiny objects. Oh, what's this rabbit hole? Well, where's this going? Where's this going? And next thing you know, I'm completely off topic. And I'm like, you know what? I, I'm better at doing a guest based podcast. So that's
Mhm.
what I started out with. And that's my very first one was a solo episode and it was complete shit. The F word was every other fucking word because, I'm a vet. Default, you're in a nervous situation. You just start dropping fucking swear words. Those are your filler words. And, it was on the Clinton body count and what have you. And it was just like, okay, I need guests. I need to feed off the energy.
Yeah. That's funny. That's actually interesting. What podcast did you listen to prior to getting into any starting your own?
My very first podcast, this is gonna kind of sound funny in a roundabout way. I had taken 2 weeks off um in August, like 20, I think it was 2019.
Mhm.
And I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot, since I was little.
Mm.
Was born in Wyoming, grew up in Idaho till I was um 10. Then we moved out here to Pennsylvania. You know, whatever. I remember going camping with friends and being like, "Oh wow, you know, you're young and you're like, I heard they have Bigfoot over in Washington State. Yeah, but did you hear about Oregon and California? No. Do you think they're going to come over here? I don't know. Those types of stories when you're a kid, right? So
Yeah.
I found Sasquatch Chronicles. I was putting building a chicken coop, whatever. I was like, I'm going to listen to a podcast. I crave knowledge and what have you. I'm going to listen to this. That led into the confessionals. Then that led into some, and always had a thing for conspiracy theories. That led into some other ones. And then roundabout way, I found Dangerous World podcast, and I was like, "Wow, I really like this." And at the time, him and his cousin was his co-host, and
Hmm.
they'd get into all sorts of secret societies, government conspiracies, this and that. And Ryan, who still does it, his old co-host, his cousin, came from more of a strong left-leaning liberal, the government's here to help you
Mm.
standpoint, and he came from the government is not here to help you standpoint, and so it made good banter. And now his
Yeah.
cousins come a little bit more this way. You can stand to have a conversation with him on certain things. But there was a point where he thought Bill Gates was the savior of the world. You know what I mean? Like he Bill Gates could do no wrong. And I started listening to some other ones and doing a callback to the drunk text. I
Uh-huh.
sent a DM to the Dangerous World podcast on Instagram. Yes, can you help me start a podcast? Now it didn't sound like that. I spelled it normal, but
Yeah.
I'd been drinking, whatever. Yeah, sure, man. Hit me up whenever you're ready. Next thing you know, here we are, over 250 episodes later, and him and I do a new show together. We've become really good friends, and
Wow, that's awesome.
it's crazy. And he lives in Arizona. I'm over here in Pennsylvania, and it's nuts. It's funny because every now and again I'll bring it up as like the Valley Girl. I'll be like, oh well, it's just a Pisces thing, right? Because we're both Pisces. We're both born in March. He's the beginning. I'm the end. And he'll be like, oh, I hate when you say that. I'm like, well, I bring the fucking gay, dumb, dark humor. Half the time. Why so serious?
Did he respond right away, or did he respond like a few days later?
He responded pretty much directly,
Oh
which
yeah.
shocked me. Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
mean, you got that drunk, and how was that like? You're like, "Oh shit, am I tripping?"
yeah, I was just like, oh shit, this dude really got back to me. Like I didn't know what to do. I was like, fuck, he called my bluff, I think. You know what I mean? Because you're sitting there like, yeah, I got liquid courage. I want to start a podcast. And then all of a sudden, what?
FaceTime?
Yeah,
Shit.
I can help you. Oh fuck. Well, I don't have any equipment. I don't even know I I don't even know the basics, you know what I mean? I just know I love listening to them. And, fast forward, you get your equipment and, you upgrade, thanks to the Patreons, I've been able to upgrade to some really good equipment and was able to come in contact with other creators that helped him upgrade to get him a Roadcaster as well. And, it's just been great. It's been a great community. People reach out, people are willing to help. And, you have those assholes out there that, want to start shit and just think whatever. And it's like, you know what? Don't have time for you. Yeah, him and I love calling motherfuckers out, especially on cunt. There was this period about a year ago where certain podcasters in the community, I'm never charging for my content. That's a sellout and da 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 da. Well, shit. Now you're running commercials too, huh? Oh, you got a Patreon now too? Shit. I thought you said you'd never do that. No wonder why I quit following you.
You know what? Shout out to Patreon, man. We just recently jumped onto Patreon. I think this year we launched it, but yeah, what a tool, right? I don't think there's anything like it as far as a direct access to the content creator, and even I mean, certain memberships give you a benefit of controlling the content direction too, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
getting to really know, you know what I mean? Like if you really fuck with ghosts and want to get to know them, I'm pretty sure you have some kind of benefit in your Patreon. Sometimes there's meetups you can do a one-on-one with them and talk about crazy shit,
Mhm.
you know. So now, what do you think? Do you think you should build a following first before launching Patreon, or fuck it, just launch a Patreon from the beginning? because that's kind of been the topic in our group before launching
And
it.
see, that's hard because I came into this. Um, this is where Ryan and I are completely different.
Hmm.
He's the more artistic type of Pisces, where he can. This is one of his shirts that government is the virus back in the day that he put out before I even reached out to him, as a listener and what have you.
Uh
And when he replied, yes, I did fanboy, just to clear that up.
huh.
Um, but when I started, I was like, because he'd be like, "Yo, start a Patreon, start a Patreon." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, but I don't know." You know what I mean? Like, I'm new. I'm still like getting my feet wet. I'm trying to find my grind. And I
Hmm.
think it was after about a year, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna do it." And at the time, I had two different shows. I had my weekly episode, which is this one, and I had a weekly roundtable that I used to do called Talk at the Tavern, which was fun. And in the infancy, it was like the fucking wild, wild west. Sometimes 15, 16, 20 people would show up for a round table. Sometimes it would be as little as six. But in the infancy, we'd go for 4, 5, 6 hours, of just fucking talking, drinking,
Goddamn.
smoking, whatever people wanted to do.
Hmm.
And after about 70 some episodes, I was just getting burnt out of trying every week to try and book six different guests to do a roundtable. But to back it up to the Patreon, I had that and um, my third eye. So I would started putting out, okay, the first hour's free. Anything after that, sign up for the $3 tier. The $3 tier gets you the Wednesday episode in its entirety, no commercials, whatever.
Hmm.
Now, if you want to sign up for the $5 tier, because I keep them low, keep them reasonable. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
gas and groceries are fucking out the ass anymore. And so the $5 tier gets you any video of any episode, all the episodes in their entirety, and a $10 tier, you're just a super supporter at that point. You just really love the content and you enjoy. I keep it low and simple just because, you know, there's certain people out there that be like, well, I have a $25 tier. Well, how many subscriptions do you have to that 25? Well, I have two. All
Hmm.
right. What's your next lowest tier? Well, $10. Well, how many subscriptions do you have there? Oh, about 30. Well, if you drop your 25 and push everybody to 10, you're going to double your fucking money in the end. You know what I mean? Because it's much more affordable to pay $10 a month than it is $25 a month, and more people can afford to spend $10 a month because, let's face it, pack of cigarettes is almost $10 a month, depending on the state you're in. Other
Hmm.
state, way more than $10. It's a no-brainer. You keep it cheap. You know what I mean? And if you if you're good at video, audio, and maybe doing really great bonus things, by all means, charge what you think your time is worth to put in that. So if you want a $25 or a $50 tier, do it. But me, 3, 5, and $10. Hey, sign up. That's all you got to do. It's worked so far.
Bro, I've seen some $250 tiers.
Yeah, like what? Like I'm
Stock,
not paying two hundred
be
fifty
a
dollars a month.
be a stockholder. God damn it.
Right. Like that's a half a car payment. Like
Yeah.
get the fuck out of here.
No, because I did hear this advice of just throw out a high tier, you know what I mean? And someone will bite. But at the same time, realistically, those people will probably just bite for like a month or two. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's the continuous support, I feel like, that not only pushes you to be like, you know what, fuck, I'll do behind the scenes, or you know what the fuck, I'll dissect what the fuck we talked about in that previous episode because it was so fascinating and I still want to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just the fact that there's 2, 3, or even like you have a community that's really interested in that to the point where they're asking for it. You know what I mean? It
Mhm.
also, as far as a content creator relationship with your audience, I feel like it's also symbiotic because it kind of pushes you. You know what I mean? And inspires you to
Oh,
to
absolutely.
go down certain rabbit holes.
I
You
I
going to?
remember the first time I pulled money off the Patreon, and I was just like, okay. When I started my podcast, I was given a hand-me-down of a laptop that ran Windows 8. Okay, Windows 8. So when it was time to edit audio, it each step would take almost an hour, hour and a half, and I'm like, "Holy fuck, what the
Dunk,
heck?" You know what I mean? And you're
dunk,
running into
dunk.
yeah, you'd walk away, go cook dinner, take a shit, take the dogs for a walk, maybe go over to a friend. It's kinda like the old Napster days. "Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
think yep, it's ready. I can move to the next step." Well, then, alright, I bit the bullet. I was like, "I'm gonna pull this money out. I'm gonna get a new laptop." Got a new laptop. It's running Windows 11, whatever. The moment I went into edit audio and I click okay, done. I was like, "Whoa, this is what people were talking." They're like, "Why does it take you so long to edit an episode? It should only take da 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 da, maybe 30 minutes at the max, depending on how much you want to tweak it." I'm like, now I see why they're saying, "Why does it take Go so long?" Well, shit, I was running Windows fucking 8. Like, like, so yeah, pulling that out and that being so happy that the Patreons, contributed to that, and it made sure to thank them. Same with the Roadcaster. That money came from the Patreons, and any money I've ever made always went to the podcast because it was, you know what I mean. I started
Mhm.
this with no money, and any upgrade that I got was because of the listenership, and always grateful for that, and still want to take it to more.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing this M3E media thing. I want to take it to, maybe I should wait about 15 more minutes to put this behind Patreon, but I do want to take this to another level to where bigger things can happen and other people can be part of the whole media group, if that makes sense.
I see. Almost like a collective. I like the M3, man. You speaking my
Yeah.
language.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's just, and it's hard. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not good at video editing. I'm learning. I have a couple people that, give me tips and, hey, try this, do this, and if you run into problems, hit me up. It's like, okay, audio, dude. I used to DJ when I was in the Air Force, and throw down, and loved it. But that was back before everything was digital. And so, but
Yeah,
once I
yeah.
got the hang of the digital and it's on the screen and I'm listening to it, there's a lot of podcasters out there. I fucking hate post-production. And it's like, dude, I love it.
Yeah.
That's my favorite, probably my favorite part, because then I get to tweak it, and I get to listen back, blend it, and I'm like, yeah, that's my finished fucking product. And I put it out. And
Mhm.
maybe sometimes I put a little bit more energy into post-production than anything else, but that's what the listeners get to hear at the end. You know what I mean? It's that final product. And you don't want to sound like you're in an echo room and blah blah, talking to a tin can. That's by yourself. Yeah, or it's like, oh fuck. You know what I mean? Or the one that gets me the most is this. Someone sitting there vaping the whole fucking time. It's like, that is probably one of the first times I've ever taken a hit off my vape on this show that anybody ever heard. I always, since day one, muted myself. Because I can't stand it. I want good audio.
I couldn't even hear it, dog. I couldn't even hear it. What I hate is when people do this when they're talking. Sometimes I'm doing this and they're making their
Yes.
points and I'm like, bro, what the fuck, dude? Like no one's talking. Like you got the air to yourself.
Yeah. Stop banging your shit. All right. If you want to bang something that your mic is not attached to, that I'm not going to hear. And yeah, oh, yes. Yeah. You're speaking my love language
But
here.
before we get off that, and another thing I hate is this. I fucking hate that shit, bro.
With dead air.
No, when just people are just like it's because we have a panel sometimes, so there's like 6, 7 of us. You know what I mean? And when we're like an hour and 45 minutes in, and the guy who obviously hasn't spoken in an hour 30 minutes is like, it's just like, dude, if you weren't gonna talk, just get the fuck. You're you're
Right.
fucking my bandwidth up first and foremost. You know, we probably wouldn't lag if you weren't here. So like next time, just don't come. I'm gonna have to edit that later in post too. And it's hard to edit it when they're doing that or you're tapping or
Mhm.
anything in the middle of someone making a point that you eventually want to clip. You know what I mean?
Oh, I feel you.
It's hard.
It's like,
Hey, if you like the post production, man, I feel like you're hitting a flow that not a lot of people get to as a podcaster because I just complained to my wife. I was like, I fucking hate the post production part, you
oh,
know?
that's funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I love it. I'm always researching and looking for better ways to. I mean, obviously, you're not gonna. Podcasters do this from their house, okay? Unless you're spending a few $1,000s to renovate a bedroom to make it studio quality like you would get in a recording studio,
Mhm,
it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? You're going to do things, you know, it looks great behind me. If I turn the camera the other way, you're going to be like, man, that's ghetto as fuck. You got
mhm,
blankets hanging up, you got, anything for sound dampening, whatever. But you also have to have decent equipment and um you have to learn the processes the right way. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to amplify something, you need to make sure it's normalized and that there's just a lot of steps that go together that, if done right, can make you and I sound like we're sitting in a radio station,
it's
and we're going to
crazy.
give you the news on the fives and the weather on the sixes. You know what I mean?
Straight
So
up. Mhm.
it's crazy,
It is
honestly, what you
crazy.
can do.
I've actually met some people doing podcasts who just do it straight out their car, man. And, like,
Hmm.
I wouldn't have guessed that at all. Like, it's really impressive what people can do, especially
Yeah.
with technology now. Like I said, I bash technology, and I think it's like uh, a talisman for, some kind of egregore entity to come in here. But there are some benefits of technology. You know, getting a message that is a conversation worth hearing that could probably change your perspective on certain things out of a car. Like that's kind of magical in my eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That, I've done, now they weren't recorded, but I've done Zoom meetings in the past where power was out at the house, had to go in on my phone and sit in my car. Thankfully, in my mindset, I'm like, thank God this isn't being recorded because I know I sound like shit. You know what I mean? I'm tinny. You can totally tell I'm on a fucking phone. There's no microphone in front of me. But there are people out there that do it, and then they go into post production, and depending on the tools that they use, it's like, holy shit! Like, wow, you
Hmm.
you made that sound, you cleaned that up great.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes, like, I mean, you knowing what you're doing, sometimes you're kind of hypercritical of certain things too. You know what I mean? So.
I turned a radio station off like 2 weeks ago, right? And it was during like the Christmas New Year break, so they just find interns to come in, right?
Mhm, mhm.
This dude This dude that came in, and it was a rock station that I was like, "Okay, I'll listen to the radio," because normally I don't. I was just like, "I'm gonna put on some rock, maybe they'll play some Tool or whatever." I got a 10-minute ride home. I'm not gonna listen to it long. Now, mind you, 10-minute ride home, right?
Uh-huh.
This dude couldn't get back from the microphone, and it was like, pop, pop, every fucking word he was saying. I was like, "Dude, step the fuck back." Like, I'm sitting there in the car, I'm like, "Fuck this, I'm turning it off." I turned it off. I was like,
Yeah,
"If
yeah.
you like, dude, seriously, let the microphone do its justice. You don't." Well, now, I have a pop filter on, so you're not gonna hear it as
Mhm.
much, but it was bad. I thought I was listening to, like, a middle schooler trying to put out a radio station, and this is a pretty big radio station in northeastern Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? I was like, "Holy fuck!" None of the other fucking DJs sound like that. Just these. I was like, "Fuck! I can't listen to you. I'm sorry. Call me
I
picky."
I did I used to dabble, and I'm still kinda working on some projects, but I used to rap, make music. As a person who is not really knowledgeable about, mic distance and all that, it is a vibe to be so close to the mic like this, baby. You know what I mean? It gets you kind of in that radio tone. So maybe that's what was going on with the intern.
Right. And and
Certain vibe. It's a
and
certain
trust
vibe.
me, when I started out, doing the podcast, I had to learn mic distance, you know what I mean? You get too close and it's just like, you're,
That's a world of
okay,
a
like,
difference. That's crazy.
yeah,
Hmm.
and you just have to realize these microphones are designed the technology that's in a lot of these microphones are there to make just to amplify your voice, to pick it up and carry it as a tool. So let it do its job and you do your job. And sometimes it's a learning curve. Trust me, it took me a while to figure out the proper distance and
Hmm.
like can I talk to it on the side? Because no, well it is designed that way, but now I sound like shit compared to when I'm talking to it up front and back at a normal distance. So I don't know. There's everybody thinks we sit in our house, we throw these together. Oh, you're just sitting there talking to somebody.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that goes into
Straight
making a
up.
podcast than
Mhm.
people know, and guess what? We're all usually working 40 plus hours a week on top of doing this.
And I think what people don't understand is it doesn't end there. Like you have to promote it now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's so many podcasts out there. Like you have to, I don't care if you have like your featured guest is only going to take you so far. You know what I mean? Even if you don't promote that featured guest just reposting and sharing to their audience is not
right.
going to get you the consistent, you know what I mean, success that you want. So
Yeah,
just
and that's something I had to learn the hard way. Like, all right, you start an Instagram page for your podcast, and it's like you got to remember, hey, don't go on your Instagram just to look at everybody else. People want to look at your Instagram or whatever social that you have. Like I have a TikTok that for the longest time I wasn't posting videos there.
mhm,
I would just use TikTok to get news clips and crazy shit to play for the news show. Great. Well, then I was like, you know what? I'm making these reels, for a clip to promote the show. Why don't I throw them on TikTok too? And I'm like, oh, well, for somebody that I've never promoted the TikTok, that I only have like 60 some followers, like I just never done it. You know what I mean? The one video I posted got like almost 900 views, and I was like, holy shit. Like to me, that's a lot because I was like, I've never really posted, and the few posts that I did get were like 20 or 30. They were just
mhm.
stupid, me being silly. And I'm like, well, maybe this is a new tool that I can use to promote myself. So
Yeah.
now I'm starting to focus a little bit more on, hey, let's put some clips out, reels, let's promote the show, let's make it look good. You know what I mean? And not that it's bad, but let's put some effort. Let's put some effort into this.
The thing is, you kinda have to put on different hats, bro. Like, think about what we're all doing. You're being the producer, you're the talent, you're also the post director, you're the post-production, and you're also the marketing team, and you're also the advertisement team, and you're all you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
hard. You have to wear too many hats or, you know what I mean, you have to wear too many masks.
I've
So
never, until you just said that, looked at it that way. Yeah, you're the talent, you're the producer, you're the executive producer, you're the post production producer, you're the marketing team, you're the advertising team,
mhm.
and sometimes you're the merch team as well. So it's like, fuck.
You're also quality assurance because you have to reflect back. See, this is what I tell people, like, in order for me this is another I wear the mask for many reasons, but another reason is, like, so I don't kinda, like, lose myself. I'm aware of I have to put on different masks and different, to do different things. And for me, it's hard to think numbers, it's hard to think advertisement when I'm trying to be creative, you know what I mean? Because when I'm trying to be creative, I don't want any limits to
Right.
the conversation as far as, coming up with content for the podcasts, conversation topics, or just different things other than the podcast. It's like I wanna be in that creative mindset where I'm not thinking, "Oh, how's the audience gonna react to this?" But then
Mhm.
if you have to go into post-production where usually you start kinda thinking about the business and the receptivity of the media that you're post producing, you know what I mean? Then you start thinking advertisement, and now the kind of actually it the creative side can play a factor into your business and your advertisement side of it, but more so of a business number side, you know what I mean? Like, as far
Mhm.
as creatively doing a promo, there's situation where you could put that hat on, but at the end of the day, you need to put the business objective mind or hat on or mask on, you know what I
Right.
mean? So you get lost in all that. Sometimes it's like I got so used to promoting content, I can't even come up with new ideas for new content anymore. It just I haven't started that engine, you know what I mean? It's fucking crazy. It's a
Yeah,
headache.
it is a headache, and people, trust me, we're not trying to tell you not to start a podcast, but, like, there's a lot more that goes into this if you really want a good quality podcast with good content
Mhm,
and everything else that follows, because, there's people out there that, on a different note, will do it from their car with a cell phone and not even edit. They just throw it out, and it's like, you got good content, but you're not listenable. If
mhm,
if listenable is a word, I can't listen to you because I'm too distracted, and maybe it's just me, but I'm too distracted of how shitty your audio sounds, that it sounds like you're coming through, 2 tin cans on a string talking to your friend, and
mhm.
it's like, come on, just take the extra step. I don't care if you save $20 out of your paycheck for, 6, 8, a year, 12 months. Upgrade something. Just little by little. You don't have to do everything overnight, but just do a little here and there, and you'd be surprised at how many more people will start listening, how many more people will start following, how many
Mhm.
more people will share your shit,
Right.
because they're like, man, this is good. I like this. You know what I mean? I'm not tuning in to listen to two tin cans. Hey, that might be a good name for a podcast. Two tin cans.
Yeah, I'm taking that, bro. I'm taking that. Patreon. No, but also, like, as far as, like, the content creating side, because I mean, dude, most of us are, like, 30s and above, like, what I have to fucking learn TikTok, bro? Like, I don't wanna learn TikTok, you know what I mean? But how are people supposed to share TikToks of you if you don't have any TikToks out there? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that was me with Instagram. I I
mhm,
n I had a personal Instagram account years and years ago. I never used that. I was just like, this is kinda, people post a picture and then write a comment. Like, to me, I was like, I was a Facebooker. You know what I mean? I'm old.
mhm,
Now I can't tell you the last time I was on my personal Facebook account. I don't have a Facebook for the show. It's Instagram. I'm always usually on Instagram or TikTok. And I never thought, I made fun of my wife and kid. Oh, the TikTok, right? Yada, yada, yada.
yeah, yeah.
And then I downloaded TikTok one day, and,
Spent 20
the
hours
al
on it.
yeah, the algorithm was like, somehow knew I like conspiracy theories. And
Oh
I was
my
just like,
god.
"Whoa, have you been on TikTok, conspiracy TikTok? Like, holy shit." And then it just starts feeding you other shit, and you're just like, "Now I know why this fucking app is so successful, and why, governments wanna take it down, but, uh, they won't, because it benefits them." And,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, and every other platform sees what TikTok is doing. Now we have reels. Now we have shorts. And
Mhm,
they're trying to buy into that algorithm, that short. I'm going to capture you for 5, maybe 10 minutes, or a 1-minute clip. It sells, and it's instant. It's, here's the content. Boom, I got the information. Now let's move on. And
yep,
that's what people like, because we're in an instant gratitude era. We need that satisfaction right now. Okay, cool, done. And it works perfect for someone like me. 30-minute lunch. I can sit there and scroll through TikTok, go through a whole bunch of videos. I can like maybe 5 or 6 videos in a half hour that I'm going to use and clip for the new show, and I'm done.
mhm.
So to me, for production side of things, for one of the shows, it's like, dude, that's no brainer. I'm sitting here eating, which I like to do. I'm not working. I'm taking a break, and I'm kind of being entertained, and I'm getting content for my new show. Great. It's a win, 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 win.
Also, I mean, I did make fun of us being older men and trying to get into TikTok and how much of a bitch that is. But interestingly enough, a lot of people our age are on TikTok. It's actually a surprising amount of us that are on there. It's
Yeah,
it's it's actually
yeah.
funny.
I'm actually surprised myself. You see,
Mhm.
there's this one guy I don't follow him. He pops up on my for you page. The 40-year old guy or 40, and his thing is he'll come on and be like, "You mean to tell me for 40 years I never knew this hack or whatever it is?" And he'll go and he'll test the hack, film it, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. 9 times out of 10 they do work, and it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh shit." He found his niche, you know what I mean? And
Crazy.
he's 40 years old. I'm 46, gonna be 47 in March, and I'm on TikTok and never thought I'd be sitting there trying to, "Let's
Mhm.
create content," da 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 da. Most people think, "Oh, TikTok, you're just on there for the twerkers." It's like, no. Actually, I hardly get any twerking videos because the shit I look up, or it's either recipes of what pick a culture. I'm gonna look it up and try and make a recipe, or it's news, or it's conspiracy theories. That's it.
Yeah, me too, bro. But sometimes there's a twerking video every now and then. Probably like a
Yeah.
two to 100 ratio.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Hold up,
every now and
my
again you
setup just fell. But here, let me hold this. What I was gonna say is being into the conspiracy theory community. I'm sure you've heard some crazy ones that you don't believe, and I'm sure you heard some crazy ones that you do believe. So, what are
mm.
some that you don't believe in that you heard that were intriguing? And also the second question as well, while I set this up.
So now conspiracy theory or possible cryptid that I don't really buy into is any type of water cryptid other than Loch Ness Monster. I just like the story. Conspiracy theories that I don't really buy into, like now, is this whole alien invasion shit. Okay, yeah, we had disclosure with UFOs or UAPs, whatever they call them. I've kind of always believed that there's other life forms out there. But, like, even with this Miami thing, last year with this Las Vegas thing, now I seen something today that someone was filming at the bottom of a fucking mountain in, I wanna say Brazil, and they're like, "Look, more 8 to 10 foot tall aliens are on top of this mountain," and it's like, first of all, I can tell that they're not 8 to 10 feet tall, that's just a human standing up there, and you're just promoting this bullshit. Like, even with the whole Miami thing, w any footage that you had, it just looked like a light was shining up on a building and casting a shadow. It's like, come on. Like, I get the blue beam aspect, but I just don't think I just don't think blue beam is what people think blue beam is going to be. And whether it's an alien disclosure or an alien come down and we worship aliens, my personal mindset with blue beam is, and you have Elon Musk saying it a lot, we're trying to create an AI god, a new god. So is Bluebeam going to be the new way to introduce and get everybody hooked on AI, and that be the new AI god? I don't know.
Wow. You know what? I never saw it like this, but you just actually gave me a piece of the puzzle to something I've been trying to figure out for a while. So, AI God, that's kind of something I've been dabbling with. Because are you familiar with the idea of the egregore?
A little bit, a little bit.
So it's almost like a spiritual it's almost like an idea or a philosophy, but you can create a psychic entity or a spiritual entity in the psychic
Mm-hmm.
realm, you know what I mean? And you can
Right.
kind of feed it with your thoughts, your prayers, some people you do human sacrifices and stuff to kind of feed it. But there were
Back in the day,
people.
they used to call it prayer.
Yes. Or sometimes, different
Or
gods,
spell.
right? Like
Yeah,
the
right.
rain god or the sun god or whatever. But the point is, in many cultures, they always tried to summon them into a talisman, whether it was a statue or an idol,
Hmm.
Or have you heard of the brazen head?
No. Ooh,
So
fill me in.
this guy Francis Bacon, apparently he created an anatomically accurate mechanical head. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to kind of make those psychic machines you see where you put a quarter in and you press a button, it kind of tells you like a fortune telling
Oh
type
yeah,
of thing.
the what was it? Zoltar or
Exactly.
Zartan or
Zoltar, I
yeah,
think is
yeah,
his name.
Zoltar.
So back then that was really big, but you would have to go talk to an oracle, or you'd have to
Mhm.
talk to a shaman, right? So what Francis Bacon was trying to do is he was trying to make a machine and summon a spirit into it so you can bypass all that and he can kind of be like, hey, just go here, you don't have to be anything. Kind of trying to capitalize on it. So what he did is he tried to summon a demon into it, and
Mhm.
apparently it worked. And it's a whole story. There's an article on this in the San Francisco newspaper. I had this on the Discord somewhere. I'll pull it up. But look at Saint Francis Brazen Head. But the whole point is the demon eventually apparently got trapped in the head and spoke, right? And so now we talk about computers, and I talked to Juan from the One-on-One podcast, and we talked about, you know, the person who made the structure for the computer, Charles Babbage. He was initially trying to summon a devil into this world. I think he
Mhm.
went to some kind of camp with when he was younger, and they did this blood sacrifice where they cut themselves and they try to summon the devil. But his whole why of going down this rabbit hole to make a computer was he wanted to capture God into like a crystal. And if you look at computer parts, they're all kind of crystals, and you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And they're really conductive with electricity. Now, we talked about the egregore, and why I'm going down this rabbit hole is because, it ties in with aliens, and you mentioned Project Bluebeam. What's his face? David Grush. He's the big name right now in the alien community as far as disclosure goes. He said that aliens, you need to look at them more as an interdimensional idea. And in the 3D realm where we're living right now, in order to create, you 3D print or you give birth, right? Like objectively, that's creating in this 3D world. But if you look at interdimensional beings, like if you see past time and space, like ideas and the imagination realm could be its own dimension. That could be like the seventh dimension or something, right? But for them creating is thinking ideas, thinking thoughts, you know what I mean? Praying. But for them to create here, they almost have to put thoughts in our heads, communicate with messages, dreams, psyops to kind of make you think certain things, and so that they can kind of transfer into. If you look at any demon possession, they always need a vessel. There's no demon that kind of just conjured. It's like, oh, I'm Satan. They always possess
So
something, right?
kind of what you're saying is we're the crystal or the statue for them.
No, this is what I'm saying now because of you. Because of Project Bluebeam, and Project Bluebeam was always painted to be holograms, right? Now
Mhm.
they could just project a hologram. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So now they don't need to inhabit us, and they could just project a hologram and make it believable to where, oh wow, that is God. So now they don't need to hijack us. And if you look into the dead internet theory, where most of the shit that we're looking up is pretty much fake and AI generated, then there's something as far as like, I think AI, we misunderstand it. You know what I mean? It gets
Uh-huh.
put in a box as far as, oh, it's technology. It's just, human made, it's human advancement. But I think, and we could talk about ancient civilizations. There's always this fear about something being created and getting out of control.
Yeah.
So
Always.
could they have bypassed? I mean, we can even get to 3D printing now because they could just 3D print their own organic being and bypass us. You know what I mean? But the Project Bluebeam thing and them starting out with projecting holograms as far as their light archetype or light, avatar here. That's interesting, man. It's almost like
Yeah.
that movie with Johnny Depp where he transcendent. Let me look at it up. Or becomes
Shit.
a
I'm not.
computer.
Yeah. I'm not. I used to be a huge Johnny Depp fan when I was younger, loved all his movies, and then, Pirates came out, and then you start kinda looking into the artist and not and forgetting about the art, and you're like, "God damn, why'd you have to ruin it, Johnny?" Like, seriously? But, great actor.
Transcendence is the movie.
I don't think I've ever seen that one. I'll have to put that on my list.
Yeah. But it's crazy, man. Like we always talked about, like, I mean, we grew up spiritual and we've always been known about demon possessions, and they always
Mhm.
need a vessel. And like one thing a guest told me, and I'll kind of cut my spiel off here is we're all taught there's a heaven and a hell, right? But
Yeah.
he said that you need to look at heaven and hell more of like a political party. It's a red versus blue because at the end of the day, that drama and that war is going to continue on. You know what I mean? So it's
2
almost like
wings, 1 fucking bird.
and it's I like to say this all the time. It's all BS. It's just belief system. So whatever you believe, you know what I mean? That's the kind of BS you're gonna be dealing with. So
Yo, I'm stealing that now. I'm like, I know BS, belief system instead of bullshit. No, well, hey, that's his
what's the
BS. That's
what's
his
the
belief
difference?
system. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Hell yeah. It
So
it it
it's crazy.
I don't know. It everything's crazy. That's just like my thought on Bluebeam and what AI could be. I could be completely wrong. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and I'm willing to admit that, But then there's other people out there that will latch on to a theory. And when I say a theory, how about the theory of evolution? People think it's still called the theory of evolution, but people think it's the reality of evolution now.
Hmm.
There's never been any proof of evolution ever. Just saying.
So we had this conversation last night, and like I said, I'm a martial artist, so I like Bruce Lee and all that. And one Bruce Lee quote that we brought up was, "Don't pay attention to my finger because you'll miss what I'm pointing at." You know, and I feel like that's happening all the time. And we talked about like what makes the finger pointer believable. Is it his character? Is it the fact that he has facts about the moon? You know what I mean? We talked about some back then knowledge was passed down through tales and orally, then it turned into books and written things. But now I don't care what kind of experience you have because I have a phone that tells me that you're lying and that the scientific research here is true. So like I don't need a messenger anymore because I'm being fed facts by my phone because my phone says it's facts. You know what I mean?
Right.
So where I'm going back, where I'm still struggling with this, where I'm going back with this is if you now inject that internet theory into this, where AI knows what kind of content is keeping you engaged, they know what content is keeping you on the platform, so they'll keep pushing you that content even though it's fake content, because it keeps you objectively on TikTok. Because TikTok, as cool as it is for conspiracy theories, there's some pretty fucking crazy ones, bro.
There are. There
that
are.
I've saved. That I've saved. You know what I'm saying?
Nice, nice.
So what I'm trying to say is now that your research on your phone is the standard of knowledge, what's to say that that's not even fake because of dead internet theory? And now
Yeah, very
your
well could be.
belief, your BS, your belief systems is has changed. Now, how important is belief systems? If you think the world is flat, then you don't believe in gravity. You don't believe in outer space. There's a lot of different details that come into play with just downloading that belief system. If you believe in a globe, then you believe in gravity, you believe in planets. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of other programs that gets entailed with the belief system. Now, if you believe in something that isn't even real, that's AI created, and that could be a conscious being from another dimension that somehow found a tunnel over here, you know what I mean? Then it's kind of what's free will, you know what I mean? Because I feel like free will was back then when there was a lot of room in your imaginative mind, where you didn't need detailed pictures to be like, okay, I don't even need to imagine anymore. It's more generated images from yourself kind of creating in your image if you will, right? Since we're divine, we're a part of the divine spark. So now they're taking
Uh-huh.
free will away from us, bro, because no, the image is this, no, the facts is this. And how
Hmm.
do you know? Don't listen to that guy. Look at our research because this predates that guy. Who
Yeah.
knows, bro?
My phone just fact checked me. You're wrong.
Exactly.
We saw that from since 2020 to now. You know what I mean? It's like you post something, fact check says this is wrong, even though the evidence. You could post something from somebody clearly quoting something. Nope, he never
Hmm.
said that.
Right.
What?
And now with deepfake and all the crazy voice,
Oh,
you know what I mean, generating things, it's no, I saw it. You said it here. You could get fired for that. You know what I mean? You could
uh-huh.
lose your whole brand or your audience to that. And that
And
might not even have
take it
been
to
said
another
by
level.
you.
Think of elected officials that they don't want in office on either side. Oh well, I just saw Lauren Hobart, I'm sorry, Boebert, um, getting gangbanged by all these Democrat senators. Well, that never happened. No, seriously, I saw the video and it was
Just
real.
just to back up my theory about AI being a demon, it doesn't even need to possess you to do that anymore, bro. It could
Uh,
just do a deep fake of you and
yeah.
it's as effective now because we have this belief system of the matrix of kind of bringing that all in here where we're kind of, you know what I mean, living symbiotically with technology and AI because we are now, you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely.
The next step is getting the chip, as ridiculous as that is, where we already have a volunteer for what's called the Neuralink.
No, yeah. No, fuck that.
Jeez.
It sounds great in theory. Oh wow, you're going to help the blind see, the deaf hear, the mute speak, the cripple walk. Nah,
Hmm.
nah.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I like where you're coming from, but that's not your end goal. That is not your end goal. Sorry.
for sure, man. It's I don't know. I just feel like it's hard. Like I've been trying to journal more, meditate more, and visualize more. And one of my visual practices is think of 3 different things every day that I'm thankful for. And it baffles my mind that if you do this for a month, by like day 20, it starts to become difficult to think about things that you're thankful for. Like y
Oh,
like that flickering image is just it's hard to start up now, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like our free will and our power is being taken away from us, and it's empowering something else, you know what I mean?
yeah. Well, and it goes into anything, like okay, me and Ryan sit here and call Lauren Boebert, Lauren Hobart, right? Senator. She wouldn't be good looking if she wasn't in Congress, all right? She's white trash. She's from Colorado. Look into her. Police records a mile long on a lot of stuff, domestic. Her husband, they owned a bar. Her husband fucking whipped out his dick in the bar, and there was kids in there. But hey, it's okay, right? It's okay. But the fact that me and Ryan and maybe many others, maybe our listeners, call her Hobart feeds that energy into the matrix to make that certain deep fake of her getting gangbanged by
Mhm.
all these senators. So do we help add to that, and are we the co-creators of this in a roundabout way? I think we are.
She's fine as fuck, though. I will say that. But no, that's another conversation we had last night. I feel like free will is thrown around loosely, just like placebo effects thrown around loosely,
Mhm.
but you should really look into those terms, you know what I mean? Because free will, if you believe in angels and demons now, and I had a TikTok about this, I feel like they recognize your free will because like I said, demons have a program. If we talk about, them being political parties, they have their message, they have their uh, program that they have to carry out. You know what I mean? But us, we could be like, nah, fuck that. Like, I don't want to believe that anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
fuck that. A distorted way of it. is fuck that. I want to be a girl, and then just go all the way with it. You have free will to do that. That's how fucked up it's
I'm gonna be a
half the time
girl,
those half of the time those ideas aren't yours though, which is the fucked up
right?
part. But if you had the idea, be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna be a dog man. You know what I mean? You could
Yeah.
somehow have free will to
Or
do that.
I'm gonna be a girl, but a gay squirrel at the same time.
Yeah, and you have to
Yeah.
respect it.
Yeah,
Like.
which is which is crazy. Now, I'm gonna give you a question, kind of vaguely,
Mhm,
just in case. Yeah, because I know from listening to reality stars, I know your ethnic background.
mhm.
Does that play into anything with your belief in the paranormal? Because your ethnic background comes with a lot of paranormal
I'm
belief
glad you asked
systems.
that. I'm glad you asked that, bro. I actually started this segment on Patreon called Unmasked, where I take my mask off. And I talk about why I'm into the things that I'm into. And so I'll share that with you over here. I obviously Filipinos, they're very superstitious, right? Witchcraft, religious, even the mix of the two, right? My grandma was actually she actually dabbled in witchcraft. Now to the extent of that she practiced, she would cast, like, certain wealth spells for my grandpa because my grandpa was, like, a really big time gambler, and he was in, like my grandpa's crazy, bro. My grandpa was in, politics, but he was also, like, a big gang leader, so obviously, that tying in with, like, my grandma, who used to be an actress but dabbled in witchcraft, like, she would use her witchcraft or magic in order to, cast spells on certain enemies that he had or to grant him luck into my grandpa got sentenced for life. He had a death penalty, but somehow he got pardoned because him and the president were cool like this. So whether or not the shit is real or it's coincidence, I don't fucking know, but point is, my grandma practiced all that, and so she kinda kept that away from my mom, but my mom growing up and asking all these questions, she would be into it, so I think it's something that my grandma kept from my mom, but my mom was interested in. So when
Gotcha.
I came into the picture, my mom movies, shows, all that shit that she would watch would be based on the occult and witchcraft. So for me, it was, like, kinda horror. It was kind of categorized in the horror, kinda weird witchcraft style, but I don't think it was up until, like I mean, you get deep into the rabbit hole, and it becomes a spiritual warfare at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and, like witchcraft does come into play again, you know what I mean? And it's just weird how that is kind of universal all around because even in the Philippines, even there I mean, like, even in America, there's its own even in Europe, even in Hawaii, they all have some kind of superstitious belief with and some kind of paranormal system and
Mhm.
practice that they believe with their own set of cryptids as well, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So
It
I think the soil was there, bro. It took a matter of watering and caring for, you know?
You were the seed that needed to come out, right? "Hey, look at me, I'm sprouting my wings," yeah, or my leaves or whatever you wanna call it, but yeah,
Mhm.
the Filipino, superstition always fascinates me 'cause there's so many, there's a lot that I don't know off the top of my head, but, like, certain things like going to bed during certain times or whatever, and I don't,
Some of them
a
are
lot of it,
overboard. Some of them are overboard.
yeah,
Now when I say that, I'm not disregarding that it might be factual, but from my perspective, it's like, I think one crazy thing is that every New Year's at midnight, you have to jump so you get taller. Whether that's a visualization practice, you know what I mean, of your
right,
inner avatar growing, I don't know. I just said don't dumb down placebo, so who
right,
knows?
and you you look at the culture and you look at the history with their belief in superstition from an outsider that doesn't really know. It's like, wow, they're scared of everything. Like
Mhm.
they're scared. They have a belief system for every little thing because they're scared that the other side of the veil is going to attack them at any time. And then you go to a different culture and it's completely null and void. Like night and day. And but it has always fascinated me with how into superstition they are. I think the Filipino culture is probably the most superstitious culture out there, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think also I'll take this 2 directions. One, there's still some tribal people around there, and it's like a clusterfuck of islands, so I'm pretty sure there are modernized Filipinos that still have ancestors that are still, like, somewhat tribal, somewhat, you know what I mean? Transitioning into, like, modern human, if you will. So, maybe some of their practices and teachings get passed down, and, if something sounds superstitious and believable, that spreads like wildfire. You
Oh
could
yeah,
see TikTok, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, absolutely.
But the second thing that's interesting, and I need to look at, like, some kinda ley line map to see if there's a lot of ley lines there, is the same reason why they say Hawaii is has a lot of mana or, like, magical
Hmm.
spiritual powers because there's a lot of volcanoes there, right? And they say that volcanic energy and volcanoes were, like, entrances down to, like, inner earth, if you will, and
Uh-huh.
whatever that source is. There's a lot of volcanoes in the Philippines, right? There's a lot of little islands that probably people haven't been, so that could either cultivate weird species or creatures or have some sect of people that still practice. I don't know, but there's just a lot of areas there for fuckery to go on, and I'm pretty sure if you leave people in a room or an island, I mean
Imagination can
yeah,
grow.
exactly. Let your imagination go wild. If you leave people on an island for too long, shit can go wild. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's no different than ancient ancestors before technology, their
Mhm,
imagination went wild at looking at the stars, or, then it's sitting there talking as if that's their movie, or a video game of the time, and then translating their story and what they saw in the sky to cave art, or a petroglyph, or hieroglyphs, or even sculptures, take your pick. And it's like, it comes from somewhere, and maybe not everything is as crazy as it sounds, because a superstition is born out of, usually, a circumstance that actually happened,
right.
usually.
Wh
So, I don't
what's in
know.
what's interesting too is I've dabbled into the thought experiment of, some of these devices that we have, we're using them wrong, and they're based off
Mhm.
devices that we've had. So I'm sure you've heard of dumbasses saying, I was one back then of, "Oh, if I could go back, I'd go back with an iPhone and show 'em." Like, what's to say you go back and they're like they take it from you, break it, take the chip out, and then they start worshiping the chip, and then some deity comes into it, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, you don't know, we might be using, like, fragment devices that they use in a different way now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who
You
knows?
know, I was blown away when, I found out that when Moses went up on the mountain and was talking to a burning bush, it was a burning acacia bush.
Makes sense.
And that's where you get that's where you get DMT from, is from the acacia plant. So, hey, you gave us a good vision of stuff that we're supposed to do. I don't know where y'all found all this fucking gold in the middle of your trek to melt down and smelt and then forge a golden cow, but
Mhm,
nice story. I get it. I get the going back to the, you know, I'm gonna take do I take that literally, or do I just take that as a metaphor? I'm gonna take that one as a metaphor with a little bit of literal essence in there of, like, don't be a fucking douchebag and kill somebody. Don't go fucking sleep with your neighbor. Listen to your mom and dad. Be a good person is basically what the 10 commandments are. Like, don't be a douchebag.
mhm.
But, hey, you fired it up with an acacia bush, and, you probably went, I don't know where you went, but you went somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that detail would have been important to note, right?
Right. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as funny as that is, that little detail is what prevents anybody from accessing God
Huh?
too, you know what I mean? So, as far as we
Yep.
talked about Bible being a Wikipedia page that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's kind of scrambled, but yeah, man, it's crazy.
Well, I'm gonna let you plug all your stuff one more time. I thank you so much for coming on. I know the
Appreciate
time
you.
schedule got screwed up. I
That's
say
another thing
this
about
all the
Filipinos, bro. We're from another time zone, so we're an hour later. So that's probably what happened.
well, I say it all the time on my show. I can book a guest from Australia or England or Ireland easier than I usually can from somebody on the Pacific Coast. For whatever reason, that 3 hours backwards doesn't translate into East Coast time, but it's just weird. But I kinda had that feeling when I'm like I sent him out, like, "Do you need to reschedule?" I'm like, "You know what? I guarantee you he's thinking
Oh man,
another hour."
I made my people look bad, bro. I made my
Ah,
people
you're
look
good, you're good. We still you came, you saw, and you kicked some ass, and I can't thank you enough. You're more than welcome to come back anytime, and what a great conversation. I it just free flowed.
yeah.
I'm looking up and I'm like, "Well, okay, we've been going for over an hour and a half now. Let's wrap it here and, call it a day. We can pick up on another day." But again, plug your stuff. Thank you for coming on and spitting your truth that needs to get out there.
I appreciate you, man. Like I said, I would love to have you on our show, you know? So invites open. There's no doors in the cave, if you will.
Nice.
So
Oh, so you didn't put a big Rolling Stone
no,
block
no,
in
no,
front of that?
no.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
And I am a ghost, so I can walk back and forth through there.
There you go. That's beautiful. I didn't even get that into the ingredients, but you can find me in the cave at the K4V3 or the website cave.com, K4V3.com, or I'm on Twitter usually, Joreeezus. Hit me up. Let's talk. And appreciate you, Ghost. Had a fun time, man. An hour 30 flew by like.
Absolutely. And I had a great time too, because to be on conversation all fucking day. Because when you're like, "Yo, we want a free flow? We can free." I'm like, "Dude, going off fucking different tangents." Because I've I have a guest on that is on a certain. I never do prep. And the conversation just goes where it needs to go. We did it. You
Yeah,
helped
man.
knock it out enough for coming on. Now, to my go follow him. Uh, he just said on his socials, go look up the podcast. Give a 5-star rating and review. Come on. Just go follow them on Patreon if they get a Patreon going. They go. Wealth of knowledge and guests. Thank you. Thank you for always remember, think for yourself.